Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. What's Open Mic? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked to see every day, Monday through Friday, on the John Campea Show. We take time to take some live questions, but on the weekends, that's all we like to do is just take live questions, and that's what we've got here, a big old session of Open Mic. It's Sunday. I hope you guys have had a really good weekend up until now. I hope you had a great Friday, great Saturday, and now just getting that last little bit of relaxation before you conquer a new week tomorrow, and that's what I'm planning on doing, and I'm glad that you guys are here with me today. So let's not waste any time. Let's dive in right into it and start taking the live questions you guys have sent in, and we're going to get things started here with Snake Jerusalem, who writes, the MCU is now just $3 million away from grossing $5 billion in 2019. It is crazy. I mean, we were talking about how, Disney broke the record for most box office in a single year by a studio in July. And they still have Maleficent 2, Frozen 2, and Star Wars Episode 9 to come. And they've already broken the record. 2019, Walt Disney breaks the record, and they still have those things to go. And the MCU films as well. Now, one of those films don't count towards Disney's box office total because one of those films, Spider-Man Far From Home, is obviously a Sony film, but still, it is a remarkable achievement. When you sit down and look at it, it is just absolutely crazy. All right, Luke Woodward writes, John, you are a treasure. Well, thank you so much, Luke. And I say that with all my heart. You are so special in so many ways. You have big things ahead of you, my friend. Oh, thank you so much, Luke. I appreciate that. You know what? I'm doing big things. I love my life. I'm very happy with what I'm doing and where I'm at. I do have a few special things on the go behind the scenes right now, but thank you, man. It's always, seriously, I say it a lot. It's always so nice when somebody just wants to write something in just to say something nice. I mean, that's it. This is the whole reason I want to write in. Thank you, man. You have no idea how much that means, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, Luke, and thank you for being part of the film fan community, man. All right, next up, DeRock Media writes, Super chat to say something nice, as I was just saying. Super chat to say something nice. Hope you are having a great weekend, John. By the way, The Boys was amazing. Can't wait for season 2. I think I expected The Boys to be fun. I expected The Boys to be entertaining. I wasn't prepared for how good it was. I wasn't prepared for how much I was going to like it. And, again, without giving anything away to those of you who haven't seen the series yet, the airplane scene. I mean, the airplane scene in episode 4 is just such a different dimension from where I thought a show like this would go or what I thought a show like this would be like. They kept adding on, just when you think you've got a handle on, okay, what this show is, what The Boys is, they do something different to add a new dimension to it throughout the series, and particularly with that airplane episode. It really is a special show. I really enjoyed it a lot. So I'm glad you like it too, DeRock. All right. Suthius writes, hey, Mr. C. Bill Burr brought this up in an interview. Right of speech aside, do we as fans have the ethical right to give somebody crap and harass them when they retire from acting, playing sports, etc.? I mean, that's too broad of a question, Suthius, because I think you got to be more specific. Like, let's say, for instance, I don't know, let's say Wayne Gretzky, probably the greatest professional athlete of all time. Wayne Gretzky, by the way, in case you didn't know, what I'm about to say here is completely fiction. I'm just making this up for the sake of the argument, all right? But let's say Wayne Gretzky, I don't know, there was footage caught of him beating up a kid outside of a 7-Eleven when he was playing hockey. Like, little 7-year-old kid who Wayne Gretzky thought didn't look at him the right way, and he literally, beat him up. I'm not saying pushed him down there. I'm saying beat him up. Oh, that was during his playing days. If Wayne Gretzky retires, which he has, would we as fans still have a right to criticize him and harass him for that? Yeah. I think when you beat up a kid, I think you have to just accept the fact that everybody has a right to give you a hard time about that for the rest of your life. That said, if you're saying, oh, I just didn't like that person as a hockey player, should you continue to dog them when they retire? No, that's stupid. That's dumb. First of all, I don't think you should be dogging anybody, whether they're an actor or an athlete. Look, I have a right to say, hey, I think so-and-so isn't a good football player. But that I don't have the right to get on social media and keep blasting. You're a waste of breath. Let's make up a football player's name. Ed Fork. I only thought of Ed Fork because I got Forky sitting here beside me. So let's say there's some football player, Ed Fork. And I constantly get on Twitter, Ed Fork, you suck. Ed Fork, you shouldn't breathe. You're wasting air, blah, blah. Well, no, that's different. Like, I have a right to say I don't think he's a good football player, but to just outright harass a guy for what he's doing, for an actor or an actress to harass actors or actresses just because you may not like them as an actor or an actress. Again, it's different if Wayne Gretzky beats up a kid in front of a 7-Eleven. It's for something specific, then fine. But no, I don't think anybody should be harassing people like outright, even when they're not retired, but particularly when they're retired. It's like, give it a break. That dude doesn't even play the game anymore. Give us a break. The actor doesn't even act in that thing anymore. Then, look, do we have a right to say something? Sure. But are you an asshole? You can do something that's completely within your rights to do and still be an asshole, right? That's where ethics come in. That's where ethics come in. The ethics isn't about, do you do things you don't have a right to do? The question is, are there things you're permitted to do, but should you do them? That's where ethics come in. And I think ethically there's a problem with that, but we're probably all guilty of it at one degree or another. But it's an interesting question. All right. Ben Rayner writes, over under 65%, this time next year, the DCEU will be folded into HBO Max. Oh, wait, I'm guessing 95%. I'm on record about that, Ben. Way over. We already know Doom Patrol will be heading there, but we don't know about Titans. Yeah, right now they're maintaining what I believe is a facade that HBO Max will exist and the DC streaming service will just continue as its own thing. I don't believe that for a second. I completely believe, I've believed this ever since they announced that HBO was going to, or that Warner Brothers was going to be launching their own broader streaming service. I believe absolutely the DC streaming service will be folded into it. Doom Patrol is just the first thing. I believe within a year, it'll all be over there. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I have no insider information. But I really do believe that's what will happen. I do believe that's what will happen. All right, let's keep moving here. Ben Rayner writes, flex strong muscle or butts are loose. These are, for those of you who don't know, these are both quotes from Doom Patrol. I thought the butts are loose was funny, but I didn't think it was hilarious. Flex the wrong muscle is something I will always remember for the rest of my life. So by a mile, Ben, flex the wrong muscle. That is absolutely iconic forever in my mind, that scene. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, Spielberg's father is still alive at 102. Pretty amazing he got to see so much of his son becoming the greatest director ever. I mean, that's crazy, right? Because you think about Spielberg, he's getting up there. He's getting older. Still a young man by some standards, but he's getting up there. You think about that, his dad's still around. That's pretty great. I think that's awesome. I met Spielberg's mother. I met Spielberg. I've never met Spielberg. That's the one guy I've never met. I've never met Spielberg, and he's my all-time favorite filmmaker. But I've met his mom, who actually made me lunch. Actually, one day. Never met his dad, though. And that's pretty amazing, Ryan. All right. Isaac S. writes, I never realized how good Korean movies are. Well, let's put it this way. Adapt your statement to never realize how good some Korean movies are. Right? There's some really good Korean film. There's some very bad Korean film. At any rate, I never realized how good Korean film movies are. Mother and Memories of Murder, not to be confused with Memoirs of Murder, are some of the best some of the best movies I've seen. Check them out. Later is like Zodiac. I've never seen those two myself. I've heard of Mother, but I've never seen the other two myself. But no, it's true. I remember a buddy of mine, Todd, who runs a website called Twitch Film. He's really the one ages ago that got me turned on to Korean film. And I am by no means a Korean movie aficionado. Make no mistake about it, I'm not. But he's the one who got me turned on to a number of Korean films. And by the way, if you're into Korean film and foreign film and genre film, twitchfilm.net I'll be honest, I'm not even 100% sure. I'm pretty sure they're still up and running really hard, because Todd has gone on to become like a big dude. My buddy Todd, who runs twitchfilm.net, he went on to become one of the producers of the raid. So keep that in mind. Hold on a second. Twitch. Let me see if I can... Did they close it down? I could have swore I was just looking at it the other day. Unless they changed the name of it. They did. They changed the name of it to Screen Anarchy. I guess because, and by the way, twitchfilm.net was around a long time before Twitch, the gaming streaming service. Just to let you guys know that. Anyway, Willow Yang writes, what is your favorite brand of ice cream? My favorite brand of ice cream, I believe, is a brand that has gone out of business. Let me double check to see if they're still up and around, because let me see if it's still around. My favorite ice cream was Stoney Creek Dairy. And Stoney Creek Dairy was based in Stoney Creek in Ontario, Canada, just outside of Hamilton. It may have closed down, though, because they were a store. They were a shop, and then they started selling their ice cream in stores. And that was my favorite brand of ice cream. Stoney Creek Dairy, not to be confused with Stoney with an E. There's another brand called Stoney Creek Dairy without an E in the word Stoney. Two different things. But Stoney Creek Dairy is my favorite brand of ice cream. All right. David Sickles writes, my favorite Campea voices, the artist free from studio interference and the nerd purist talking very obscure terms from movies or comics. My voices are so bad. I honestly don't know why I continue to do them. But I mean, like, yeah, when we're talking about getting into nerd stuff about about some obscure term or some sort of terminology that's done within comic books, there's the one voice we pull out. It's like, well, in Age of Apocalypse, Magneto, forms the X-Men. Well, I mean, actually, John, is Magneto moved by the sacrifice of his friend Charles Xavier to save his life from Legion. Yeah, there's that. And I can't remember the one about the artist. Don't interfere with as he quaffs his hair, my art. Anyway, there's something like that too. Anyway, I'm glad you enjoyed them, David. I'm glad somebody out there does. All right. Slim Trav writes, worst Nick Cage film, in my opinion, Bangkok Dangerous and Next. I'm going to not lie to you here, Slim. I didn't hate Bangkok Dangerous, and I actually didn't hate Next either. That's the one with Jessica Biel. Not the best Nicolas Cage films. Let me see if I can pick out what I would think is the worst one that I simply just do not like. Let's see. Well, hold on a second. Worst Nick Cage films. Man, he's got so many good ones. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'd have to think about for a while. Let me just see what he's got here. No, that's the wrong one. I don't know. But those ones I actually don't mind so much. Dan Ketchum writes, will people easily accept non-Cox MCU Daredevil? Absolutely. 100% it's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be a problem in the least. As long as they make the next Daredevil good. Right? As long as they make the next Daredevil good, nobody will care. Nobody will care. I mean, there are going to be a few purists, obviously, that are like, no, it's Netflix Daredevil or nothing. There will be some of those people. But honestly, as long as whatever the MCU does with Daredevil, whenever they get around to doing something with Daredevil, everybody will jump on board with it as long as it's decent, as long as it's good. If it's bad, well, then, as in any other case, everybody will be clamoring for what came before it, and that's understandable. But as long as they do something well, I don't think it's going to be a problem for most people at all, Dan. Matt Thornton writes, met Billy D. Williams at London Comic-Con last week. The fact that he's 82 and meeting so many fans just goes to show what a great guy he is. I don't know if it shows what a great guy he is as much as, hey, he gets to be a rock star again. Because of Star Wars Episode 9, he's a rock star again, and he's enjoying it. Now, I'm not saying Billy D. Williams isn't a great guy. Everything I've heard about Billy D. Williams is that he's a pretty cool guy. But it's not like Billy D. right now is Brad Pitt or Leo DiCaprio or Denzel Washington. Like, it's not like he's one of these guys that is always completely high in demand. And for him to spare some of his time to meet the fans is really, really good of him. I just think, like, right now, because of Star Wars Episode 9, he's a rock star again. I think he's enjoying it. I think he's taking advantage of that. And I think he's getting to go out there and do some of the things he hasn't been able to do in decades. I think that's great. Again, none of that means he's not a great guy. Everything I've heard from everybody who has met him is that he's an absolutely great guy. I just don't know that going to London Comic-Con and meeting fans when he's got the spotlight again right now, I don't believe that's what means he's a great guy. But again, everything I've heard is that he's a wonderful human being. Matt also writes, also, we know that Billy D. and Ian McDiarmid are in The Rise of Skywalker, both of which were at London Comic-Con with Hayden Christensen. Yeah, I'm not buying the Hayden Christensen thing, you know. Hayden Christensen was also at Star Wars Celebration a couple of years ago before The Last Jedi, right? And the whole bunch of people said, Hayden Christensen's here and The Last Jedi's coming out. That means he's in The Last Jedi. And obviously he wasn't. Could it mean, could it suggest that he might be in Star Wars Episode 9? It could, yeah. Just like I think him showing up at Star Wars Celebration in Orlando a few years ago, that suggested he could possibly show up in The Last Jedi, but obviously he didn't. He could pop up in Episode 9. It's possible. You know, JJ may want to loop in, you know, Anakin's Force Ghost or whatever. It's possible. But honestly, there's a lot of old Star Wars alum that go to these conventions and none of them show up in the movies later on. Christensen may just be one of them. Or he might pop up in it. I would just say this. Just because he was at Star Wars Celebration doesn't mean he's going to be in a future movie. Just because he's at Comic-Cons. Because, look, I don't mean this to sound negative because Hayden Christensen's a good Canadian kid, but how much has Hayden Christensen got going on right now, right? So why not go to these conventions, be treated like a rock star again, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't automatically mean he's going to be in these movies. That's all I'm saying. Could he? Yes. We've known that since he popped up at Star Wars Celebration Orlando. But does it mean that he's going to be in the next one? No. So we'll have to wait and see. Anything's possible, but we'll have to wait and see. All right. Orlando Orega writes, I don't know about the What If show for Disney Plus, but Marvel should have done a show about the people brought back from the snap 5 years later. Thoughts? No interest. No interest. I think it would be interesting to show as a scene in something. But, you know, a show about an average guy who was a bus mechanic, whatever, and he disappeared for 5 years, comes back, now rebuilding his life. That doesn't sound like a completely uninteresting story, but it's not a Marvel story, you know? It's not something that falls under Marvel's umbrella, really. That's just not the type of story. And to be honest with you, I honestly don't know how much interest there would really be. I mean, everybody would say, oh yeah, I'm interested in that. But then when it really comes time for it, would people be interested? I'm not so sure. So I'm going to disagree with you on that, Orlando. It's an interesting idea, but I'm going to disagree. I don't think, when you consider all the stuff that Marvel has to do right now, with all the Disney Plus shows and all their movies, do I want them wasting their energy and effort on random show about some random people who came back from the snap? Personally, no. It's an intriguing idea, and maybe there's something there that somebody could make something interesting. But from my point of view, and your opinion on this is different than mine, and your opinion is no less valid than mine. I'm just saying, from my point of view, I would rather them spending their energy, resources, and efforts on other stories rather than that one. That's just me personally. But again, I can see where you're coming from, and you're not the only one I've heard suggest that, Orlando. There are other people who agree with you. So will they ever do that? I doubt it. Could they? It could happen. Would I want it? Personally, not interested, but we'll see what happens. All right, thanks a lot for that, Orlando. All right, ZOMG Ruler writes, which is better, Man of Steel or Lion King? Whew. Huh. Man of Steel. Man of Steel. Now, if you were to say, what's better, Man of Steel or Lion King 1994, I would say Lion King 1994. But, and I love this Lion King. Love it. But I would go Man of Steel. JB Bonifacio writes, with summer movie season in our rearview mirror, my top 5 are as follows. Crawl, Booksmart, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Endgame, John Wick 3. How about you? The best movie of the summer to me was easily Booksmart. I thought Lion King might have come close, but I'd say Booksmart is still my favorite film of the year. Then I would probably have Lion King. Then probably John Wick 3. Crawl wouldn't make my top 5. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood definitely doesn't make my top 5. But I'll just leave it at that. So Booksmart is still, I think, the best movie of the year. Ben Rayner writes, loved Hobbs and Shaw. When the first cameo happened, I was like, oh shit, was not expecting that. Second cameo was like, oh cool, yeah, that makes sense. No, I totally know what you mean. And you're right. When the second person's cameo happens, and you guys probably know who it is, but I'm not going to talk about it here because I'm not going to be the one responsible for spoiling it for you. But when the second cameo happens, I was completely with you, but it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. The first one was completely out of left field. The second one, though, was like, oh, yeah, and it was still great. It was great, but not completely unexpected because, as you say, Ben, so accurately, it made sense. It completely did, so I agree with you. Okay, Suthius writes, so I mentioned Toy Story 4 yesterday, $927 million. Updated box office today is $960 million. Okay, so maybe I won't question its chances for $1 billion then. Oh no, it's still a question. It's not 100% lock, Suthius. It's not 100% lock. But I do think it's going to get there. Just there are still markets it hasn't opened in. I mean, that's the big thing. The big thing is that there are still some countries that Toy Story 4 has not opened in. So hold on, let me pull it up here. Let me get an idea. I mean, there's not many left, but let me just get a sense here of how many may be left here. Okay, so if I look for release dates. Okay, here we are. We still have... It still has to open in... Wow, there's still a bunch of them. Okay. It has to open in Slovakia on August 8th, Lithuania on August 9th, Poland on August 9th, Germany on August 15th, Denmark on August 29th, Sweden on August 30th, Finland on September 6th, Norway also on September 6th, Madagascar on the 20th of November, Togo on December 15th, and Tunisia in January. Not until January. Gosh, so we still have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, like 14 countries for this to open in now. None of them are super big movie markets. But when you consider that it only has 40 more million to go, and it's still going to get more box office from the North American box office and the places it's in, and it still has 14 things to go, it looks good. It looks good that it's going to get to $1 billion. But I still wouldn't say it's a guarantee. I would bet on it, but I wouldn't say it's a guarantee. And yet another $1 billion film for Disney this year. It's just crazy. All right, Noel Nguyen writes, going to have to give up A-list. We'll miss the recliners and Dolby Cinemas, but 3 Regal theaters near me, plus the 25-mile drive to my closest AMC says so. Hey, totally understand. That's totally understandable. Look, A-list is a better deal than Regal. A-list is better than Regal Unlimited, but Regal Unlimited is still really good. And if the difference is a 25-mile drive, then yeah. Because now you're talking about time spent in a car driving there and back, gas, like time, gas, wear and tear in your car, all that kind of stuff. Is it really that much better every time you want to go to a movie? Probably not. So that totally makes sense. And that's why it's so good that Regal has introduced their plan, right? It's so good that they've introduced their plan, and it gives people like you, Noel, now an opportunity to take advantage of a plan like that without having to make a big long trek to go to a movie theater. So good on you, Noel, and that's totally understandable. All right, Suthius writes, the Fanatic with John Travolta looks intriguing, but forgive my ignorance. Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit has been a filmmaker for the last decade. Wow. Oh yeah, he's been making movies for a long time. I still remember. Let me bring it up here so I can. Remember the first movie that he did. I'm trying just to remember it off the top of my head. All right, the first one he did. Now he was directing a lot of music videos and video shorts for bands and stuff like that for a long time. And it was The Education of Charlie Banks. Oh my gosh, was that the one that he did? Was that his first one? The Education of Charlie Banks was the first feature film, I believe, that he directed. Now, that's the one with Jesse Eisenberg. Jason Ritter was in that. Sebastian Stan was in it. So, yeah, he's been making stuff. Now, before that, most of his stuff was short stories, things like that. Oh, he did another thing, but I've never heard of it, called Pauly Shore's Dead. I don't remember that. I don't remember Pauly Shore is Dead. How do I not remember that? Anyway, but it looks like his first real big feature was, that's got to be actor. Oh, yeah. No, sorry, he didn't direct that. My mistake. He did not direct that. Yeah, everything he did prior to The Education of Charlie Banks was short films, music videos, and things like that. And then in 2007, he made his feature film directorial thing with The Education of Charlie Banks. Then he did Ice Cube's The Long Shots, which was terrible. That was awful. What else has he done? That's it for features, and now he's got the one with John Travolta, The Fanatic, coming out, that I honestly really don't know much about at all. I don't know much about that one at all, to be honest with you. So I don't even think that one's... I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that one's not going to get a theatrical release. I'm just taking a wild guess here, but I'm just going to guess that one's not going to get a theatrical release. All right. Estevel Garcia writes, the ridiculousness of Hobbs and Shaw was unnecessary. Everything in every movie's unnecessary. The ridiculousness is part of the DNA of the Fast and the Furious franchise, Estevel. That's part of what the whole Fast and Furious franchise is. Part of it that we come to expect is the ridiculousness. So, to say it's unnecessary, I don't know. I mean, if you understand that nothing in any movie is necessary, and no movie is necessary, but if you're going to make Hobbs and Shaw, and you're going to try to say it's part of the Fast and Furious universe, then a little bit of ridiculousness, to me, seems to be called for. It's not really a Fast and the Furious movie if it doesn't have that. So I'll disagree with you. I mean, your opinion is every bit as valid as mine, but since you're asking me, I'll tell you what my opinion is. And my opinion is it fit in perfectly well because that's part of the DNA of the whole franchise. Casinema Reviews writes, someone told me Comic-Con can't move out of San Diego until 2021 or 2022 because of some contract or something. So maybe by then they'll move. No, you're right. They just re-upped their contract. Their Comic-Con is still going to be in San Diego for a number of years. I have been saying, and nobody has come close to refuting this, all right? They need to move Comic-Con out of San Diego, preferably to Las Vegas. And I've been saying this for a while. Understanding I freaking love San Diego. I love San Diego. But the reality is that city is not built to handle a convention the size of Comic-Con, okay? Here are all the advantages of going to Las Vegas, and these are the important issues, all right? These are the important issues. Number one, the convention center in Las Vegas is literally triple the size of the convention center in San Diego. There's a reason I don't like going on the floor at Comic-Con anymore. I'll maybe, during the entire 4 or 5 days that I'm there, I'll go onto the floor once maybe twice. But I can't stand it any more than that because you're walking like this, shoulder to shoulder, sardined in with all these people. There's nowhere to breathe. There are so many people crammed into that small convention center that it's untenable, right? So that's reason number one, okay? And that should be good enough. The convention center in Las Vegas is literally triple the size of the convention center in San Diego. So there's that. Second major issue, hotels. I'm sorry, but when you actually have to have a lottery to see who gets hotel rooms, to maybe, if you're lucky, get a hotel room within 10 miles of the convention center, and that you've packed out all the hotels in the city so much that they literally double and triple their prices because supply and demand. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. When you go to a conference, you should just be able to hop online, book a hotel room, there you go. With San Diego Comic-Con, it's impossible. You got to jump through hoops, fight and scratch and claw, enter lotteries, and maybe you'll be lucky and get a hotel within 5 miles. And maybe you'll be lucky and they don't do anything more than just double the regular room rate on the room. It's untenable. There's that word again. It's untenable. That on its own is enough to move Comic-Con, not to mention the whole issue of the size of the convention center. So those two big reasons right there. Hotels, not enough hotels to accommodate everybody. And then if you do get accommodated, you got to do a raffle. You paying double or triple the room rates, all that kind of stuff. Number two, you're walking around like this in a convention center. It's terrible. Third reason, San Diego does not have the infrastructure for proper transportation around there. Like, it can take you 30 minutes. It took me 30 minutes this one time to get an Uber to come and pick us up at the spot we were at. And we had already walked several blocks away from the convention center. And they were only like 7 blocks away when they accepted the Uber ride, and it took them like 30 minutes to get to us. And if you want to go down there, you got to get dropped off like still another half mile from the convention center or something. It's almost impossible to get a cab. Whereas Las Vegas, that town, no problem with this. It's like it's a complete taxi cab. It's a taxi cab industry there. You can get cabs to and from anywhere. They know all the routes, all that kind of stuff. And by the way, again, with Vegas, the hotels, they've got nothing but hotel rooms in Vegas. Here's a great example. There's this big convention that's bigger than Comic-Con called CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. That thing gets a lot more people going to it than San Diego Comic-Con does. I've gone to Vegas when CES is going on. You'd never even know it. You can take a 300,000 person convention like CES or more, drop it in Las Vegas. Las Vegas doesn't even blink. They still have tons of empty hotel rooms, great public transportation, so many eating options, so many places to eat. I mean, honestly, there is no legitimate reason why they shouldn't move this thing to Las Vegas. There's just no legitimate reason. I mean, you could say, well, people will be distracted by all the other things going on in Las Vegas. That's up to the individual. That's That's not a convention issue. That's up to the individual. If some individual goes to Las Vegas and just, hey, instead of going to that panel at Comic-Con, I went to go see Cirque du Soleil. Well, that's up to the individual, right? That's not a convention issue. But it's so hot in Las Vegas in the summers. Yeah, it is, but you're spending 95% of your time indoors. At the convention center, in the restaurants, where you go to eat. They've got the T-Mobile Center there. Hall H. Screw Hall H. They have halls that can hold like 18,000 people. Right? So instead of like 5% of attendees getting to go to the big Hall H panels, like 20 or 30% of the attendees can go to the Hall H panels if they want. I mean, there's no legitimate excuse to not move Comic-Con from San Diego to Las Vegas. There are some minor arguments you can be made in San Diego saying San Diego has great weather. It does. San Diego's a beautiful city. It absolutely is. I love San Diego. I love that town. Ann and I will just go there throughout the year. 2 or 3 times a year, we'll just go book a place in San Diego just to go spend the weekend there. We love that town. But it does not work for Comic-Con anymore. It just doesn't work. This year really emphasized that again. I mean, I love that town. I love going to Comic-Con. But again, it's so unbearable on their convention floor. I only go into it like once or twice, maybe for a grand total of about 40 minutes total. About 25 minutes one time, about 15 minutes another time, because I can't stand it. Can't stand it because everybody's walking around like that. It's dumb. It's dumb. They got to move this thing. They got to move this thing or double the size of the convention center. One way or the other, they got to do something about it. Anyway, sorry I went off on that so long. It's a passionate topic for me, folks. It's a passionate topic for me. All right, Jonathan Teft writes, I live less than 10 minutes away from a Regal theater, and I would dump A-list if the Regal theater wasn't awful. So I'll keep driving 25 minutes to my nearest AMC for the far superior experience. Okay, yes. So there are other factors, Jonathan. You're absolutely right. There are other factors to keep in mind. If one theater gives you a wonderful theater experience, and by the way, there are some great Regal theaters, and there are some AMC theaters I've been to around the country that aren't so great. But if you've got Regal theaters really close to you, but to you they're not good movie-going experiences, well then yeah, that's another thing to take into consideration, absolutely. Like I'm really lucky. I have no less than 3 AMC theaters within about a 10 to 15 minute walk of where I live. 3 AMC theaters exist within a 2-block radius. There's the big one, the AMC Burbank 16. Then there's the AMC 6 and the AMC 8, and all of them are wonderful. The AMC 6 and the AMC 8 are the smaller ones, but all their theaters have full leather recliners. All of them do. Every single theater. The AMC 16 has 2 prime theaters with leather recliners, and even their regular cinemas are just really good cinemas. They have great picture, great sound, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really lucky to live so close to those. But I'll tell you what. If the theaters close to me were garbage and there was one 15, 20 minutes away that was good, I'd go to the one 15, 20 minutes away. If it was some little film that I was just going to kill some time with, yeah, I'd go to the closer ones. But yeah, man, I totally see what you're saying, Jonathan. Sometimes it's worth the drive. Chris Warden writes, do I think that the fact that Disney cut a deal with the theater companies to keep Lion King in IMAX, Prime, and other premium format theaters for 3 straight weeks hurt Hobbs and Shaw opening weekend? No, I don't think so. Look, remember, Hobbs and Shaw, let's just pull up what the weekend was. Hobbs and Shaw, they were projecting about 60. They were projecting 55 to 65. Some people topped it out at 60. It went a little over, it almost made $61 million. That is the biggest opening weekend other than a Fast and Furious movie for any Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie. So, no, I really don't. I don't think it hurt them. They were still in over 4,000 theaters, right? Hobbs and Shaw was playing in 4,253 theaters. That means anybody who wanted to go see Hobbs and Shaw could have gone to see Hobbs and Shaw. So no, I really don't think it made much of a difference at all. Just to be straight with you, I really don't think it made any difference at all. And remember, $60 million is huge for a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie opening. That's actually really, really big. Clever to Swear writes, is it ethical to pirate any media? See if you actually... Is it ethical to pirate any media? See if you actually enjoyed it, and if you did, pay for it afterwards. Obviously, still illegal, but is it ethical? No, because what are you saying, Clever? You're saying, I'm going to pirate a thing, and what if you didn't enjoy it? Well, that means I shouldn't have to pay for it if I didn't enjoy it. No, it's not ethical. Now, look. If you pirated a movie, right? And I'm not judging anybody. I'm not here to judge you. You do what you do. But if you're going to ask me if I think it's ethical, I will answer the question. Let's say you already pirated a movie. That's unethical. But now, later, you're walking by a movie theater and you get a ping of conscience going, you know, I should probably just walk up to that theater and just buy a ticket for that movie. Just buy a ticket for the movie and leave. In that isolated moment, that would be the ethical thing to do. But it doesn't mean the whole situation is still ethical. It was still unethical to pirate the movie. But in that moment, you're walking by a movie theater and think, you know what, I pirated this movie and I feel bad about that. I'm going to walk up to the box office and just buy a ticket for it. I'm not going to go in. I'm just going to go buy a ticket for it. So I paid for the viewing experience. That's the ethical thing to do there. But this whole notion of, but only if I actually enjoyed the movie. Well, then no. Then it's still very, very much unethical, in my opinion. In my opinion. Anyway, Suthius writes, Gamora, Nebula, listen to her. 2023 Nebula. You can change. 2014 Nebula. He won't let me. Such heartbreak. You can see it in her eyes. Love Nebula. Seriously, look. To me, the big surprise character of Endgame was Nebula. The big surprise character of Endgame was Nebula. They did so much more with her character that I just loved it. I loved what they did with her character. And that final, when Nebula is talking to her, when Gamora is talking to her, and she lets the defensive walls break down and the facade of her confidence break down, and there's just this raw emotional nerve exposed when she goes, he won't let me. It gives you there's a crack in her armor there that you actually start seeing the real turmoil that's going on inside. And that was a brilliant moment of that movie. That was absolutely a brilliant moment of that movie. Jonathan Teft writes, the staff at the Regal near me are often lazy. The screens are not cleaned well. One time they forgot to open the curtains the curtains on the screen all the way. A friend got stung by a bee during a movie. Well, okay, look, there's some things that are just going to happen. Like if a bee flies into a theater and then stings somebody, I'm not going to hold that against Regal. That's just nature. A bee flew in when somebody opened a door. That's going to happen. So let's not blame them for that. And you know what? Honestly, Jonathan, in Regal's defense, let me say this. For a movie screening, any movie screening, there are a lot of things that can go wrong. From curtains to lights in the auditorium, sound, sync issues, all this. There's a lot of different things that can go wrong. The wrong movie being programmed to play. There's a lot of things that could go wrong with any one screening of a movie, right? Let's look at Hobbs and Shaw. Played on 4,253 screens. Let's just for fun, just say on average per screen, it had 3 screenings a day. It was probably more, but just for fun, let's say 3 screenings per day. That's over 12,000 screenings of Hobbs and Shaw this weekend that happened. Over 12,000 screenings. When you think of all the things that could go wrong with any one screening, and then we just say, just for Hobbs and Shaw, there were 12,000. So what are the odds of something going wrong in one screening? Now multiply that by 12,000. I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised problems like, now there's no excuse for screens not being cleaned properly, but for things like curtains didn't open all the way, they start playing the wrong movie. I'm actually surprised that doesn't happen more often. And I don't personally get mad at the movie theaters when it does. I just look for what are you going to do about it? Because mistakes will happen, problems will happen. My thought is, okay, you played the wrong movie or the audio cut out during this movie. I'm not going to be mad at the theater for that, but I am going to be wondering, what's the theater going to do? And like at AMC Burbank 16, when something's gone wrong with the screening, usually the manager is right there at the door as we're leaving, giving us free passes to another movie. It's like, hey, you know what? A problem happened. Things go wrong. The question is, what do you do about it? And they addressed it. They say, you know what? The manager was there, apologized to us personally, gave us a free pass for another movie. Awesome. Or give us free a coupon for a free soda and popcorn, whatever. It's always, I never get mad at companies when something goes wrong. I look for, what are you going to do about it now that something did go wrong? And that's what it's all about. But yeah, man, there are going to be better theaters than others. And that sucks, dude, if the theater you go to doesn't give you a good experience. All right, Kurton Cage writes, Hey, John, following The Boys, I was wondering if we'll ever see a baby get brutally killed on... Why are you wondering that? I'm wondering if we'll ever see a baby get brutally killed on screen. I feel we have seen every horrible, brutal death possible happen on screen except to babies. Will it happen? I'll be straight up honest with you, Krypton. I don't care. I don't care. I don't know why you're even wondering about that, but I'm just going to say I don't care. Jonathan writes, the theater, going back to the Regal stuff, the theater is a mess, and one time I was stopped at the door to refund my ticket because they had sewage backup, in the restrooms. I've had too many bad experiences to make me not want to go back. Well, listen, again, only you can answer that question because I'm not there. I haven't had those experiences. But I got to imagine if I was going to a theater and I felt like every third or fourth time I went to that theater, something was happening. Audio's not right. Curtains aren't raised. Bathrooms are in horrible condition. On and on. If that was happening all the time, even though I'm the type of guy who goes, hey, I understand problems happen, I think even I at some point would start getting tired of that. It's like, you know what? I'm paying money to come here. I should have a more consistent positive experience in this. I'd probably be in your shoes too, Jonathan. At that point, if you're constantly dealing with that stuff, at some point I'd probably be looking for a new place to go and watch my movies too. So I can totally see where you're coming from. All right. Krypton Cage writes, I really thought Homelander would laser the baby in that final episode, but the baby wasn't in the final episode. Anyway, you mean the girl's baby, right? His powers and unpredictability creates this elevated tension that I haven't seen from villains in quite a long time. No, Homelander is seriously, Homelander is an awesome character. He's a total dick, but you need characters like that in certain movies. And he's one of the reasons I like this show so much. Yeah, Billy Butcher was great, and Frenchie was great, and Hugh was great, and all the, Starlight was great. They're all great. But it's the Homelander that really binds that movie, that show together, because he is the ultimate dick, right? With such an absolute lack of any moral compass. And it's fascinating to see that. I think they portray that really well. Connor Dixon writes, just watch Good Time. It was a good time. Listen, I keep telling people this, and I will continue to tell people this. I know there are still people that are a little bit uncertain about Robert Pattinson playing Batman. I would suggest you probably haven't seen any Robert Pattinson movie other than Twilight. Because if you watch High Life or Good Time, or, multiple others. The Lighthouse is coming out. That looks amazing. He's got this great one with Guy Pearce. He's a really fantastic actor. He is a fantastic actor, and you got to watch some of these films like Connor did. All right. Clever to Swear writes, hey, how are you? Anyways, I just wasted a question. Well, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking. It's never a waste to ask somebody else how they're doing, so thank you, Clever. I'm doing very well. I hope you're doing well, too. Collins E. writes, saw The Farewell last night. Funny, profound, and moving. Another one that will make my best of the year list. # cry time. I keep hearing everybody telling me this. I still haven't had a chance to go. Still haven't had a chance to go see it. Matter of fact, I ran into Dennis at the Hobbs and Shaw screening, and like Dennis comes running over to me. He was like, dude, have you seen The Farewell yet? I'm like, no, I keep hearing it's really good. He goes, it's my favorite film of the year. I keep hearing everybody saying this movie, The Farewell, is so good. I got to get on it. This weekend has been completely booked solid, so I haven't been able to, and I've got game night tonight, so I'm not going to be able to tonight either, but I might wander over to an AMC to watch it tomorrow, because I just got everybody telling me how good it is, Colin. So I'm going to take your word for it. I'm going to get over there. I'm going to go watch that damn thing. All right. James Argento writes, Kevin Conroy will be in Crisis as old Bruce Wayne. Yeah, I heard about that. I'm sure that's got to get the old Batman animated film, show people very, very excited. Imad writes, you get to keep one, but the other gets wiped from existence. Star Wars The Force Awakens, or the line, my friends, you bow to no one. Keep Star Wars The Force Awakens. Oh yeah, that's easy. If you were to say Star Wars The Force Awakens or Lord of the Rings Return of the King, I would keep Lord of the Rings Return of the King. But if just that one line gets wiped out, it's one of the all-time great moments in cinematic history. But if my choice is an entire movie that I really enjoy or just one line, I'll keep the entire movie that I really enjoy. I'll keep the entire movie that I really enjoy for sure, even though that is one of the great moments ever in cinematic history. My friends, you bow to no one. In the feels. In the feels. All right. Ben Robinson writes, rewatched Game of Thrones and season 8 is now a top 3 season for me. Dude, look, there are a lot of people who are unhappy with season 8. Fair enough. All art is subjective. Some people watched it and loved it. Some people watched it and didn't like it. No problem. That's part of being a fan of entertainment and art. I myself fall on the side of, I don't know what everybody else is complaining about. I thought season 8 was brilliant. Rushed. It never should have just been 6 episodes, but brilliant nonetheless. I thought it was a wonderful, not the best season, but I'll go top 3 as well. I thought the season was absolutely fantastic, but not everybody agrees, and that's art for you. All right. Michael Bradley writes, hello, John. After watching Star Trek The Voyage Home, it seems to have a better connection to Endgame than All Good Things. It's definitely one of my favorite Star Trek movies. What are you saying? Let me try this again. After watching Star Trek The Voyage Home, it seems to have a better connection to Endgame than All Good Things. It's definitely one of my favorite Star Trek movies. Now, when you say Endgame, are you referring to a Star Trek episode called Endgame? Because I'm not the hardest of hardcore Star Trek fans. Hold on a second. So Star Trek Voyager had something called Endgame? So I'm going to assume you mean a Star Trek Voyager episode. I don't recall that episode. Unless that was the final episode. I can't remember it. If Robert Meyer Burnett were here right now, Michael, you probably just would have sparked a really intensive 10-minute conversation about the connections of one to Endgame versus All Good Things, which is, of course, this series finale of Star Trek The Next Generation. But I cannot remember the finale of Voyager well enough. I can't remember that well enough. Damn, too bad, man, because I'm sure if Robert was here, he would have had a lot to say about that. I'm going to bring that up with him in a personal conversation, though. All right, Noel Nguyen writes, while I agree with Jonathan Teff that Regal has some mediocre experiences, 25 miles in SoCal can be more than an hour in traffic plus gas. Time equals money. Wish Regal was as good an experience as AMC. Well, listen, dude, seriously, if you're in SoCal, you're right. There are, one of the reasons, I've said on the show a lot, I really don't go to many press screenings anymore. And one of the main reasons is because how far I have to go to them, right? A lot of press screenings in LA are held on the West End by Century City. And if you look on a map, John, it's only like 15 miles or 20 miles. It's not that far. The thing is, in Los Angeles traffic, it can take me like an hour and a half to get there. Then about 45 minutes when the traffic's lightened up, 45 minutes to get back. I'm looking at spending 2 hours in a car to go to a press screening for a movie I can just watch in 6 or 7 days anyway. That's one of the big reasons I don't go. So you're absolutely on the money here, Noel. That is a big factor that people have to take into consideration when going to a movie in Los Angeles is how much traffic do I have to deal with to do this? I completely relate with you there, Noel. I completely relate. Connor Dixon writes, have you had any experience with Chromebooks? Yes, I love Chromebooks. As a matter of fact, I don't have it sitting here right beside me. My favorite computing device that I have, and I have a bunch. I've got my big main laptop, which is on my treadmill desk. I've got my main PC. I've got a MacBook right here. I've got a couple of tablets. My favorite computing device I have, though, is my Samsung Chromebook Plus. I love this damn thing. Love it. You know what? I'm about to take a break here in a minute to go refill my drink and use the bathroom and whatever. But when I come back from the break, I'll bring in this Samsung Notebook Plus. It is not the most powerful computing device I have. Not at all. But it's my favorite computing device that I have. I'm a big fan of Chromebooks. All right, 2 more here, and then we're going to take a short 5-minute break, guys. Wad Wan Wax writes, I believe you said you liked the first season of Mindhunters. You have any excitement for the second season? It comes out in less than 2 weeks. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought season 1 was really great television. And the funny thing is, I knew nothing about I assumed, because I knew nothing about Mindhunters. I just heard a bunch of people say Mindhunters come out and it's really good. And I saw all the ads for Mindhunters. I'm like, okay, I'm going to check out Mindhunter. I assumed it was some superhero show about some dude with mental powers. I'm not kidding. I did. I had no idea what the show was about. I didn't know it was about, the federal agents who first profiled serial killers back in whatever it was, the 60s or whatever. Had no idea. It's wonderful television. Really, really good television. And yes, Wad, I am looking forward to season 2. I'm looking forward to season 2 very much. All right. Lone Wolf X6 writes, John, it was just announced that Crisis on Infinite Earths will introduce Kevin Conroy, yeah, we covered this already, as the future Bruce Wayne, and some characters from Black Lightning will appear in the crossover. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't hear about that. Because they have not crossed over Black Lightning into anything with the CW universe yet. And they had made no mention about Black Lightning characters coming into it. And now that they are. Black Lightning is one of the better shows that they have. That's another show on CW that I didn't think was going to be any good, and I scoffed at it first. And then I watched it, I'm like, damn, this show's pretty good. I really like Black Lightning. So that's pretty cool. The Kevin Conroy thing already knew about, but I didn't realize the thing about Black Lightning characters. Now you got me interested. I was already interested, but now I'm especially interested. That sounds very, very cool. Then Lone Wolf follows up and writes, it will go Supergirl December 8th, Batwoman December 9th, The Flash December 10th, then Arrow January 14th, and Legends of Tomorrow January 14th. Odd that it will take a break till January after The Flash. That's true. Well, I mean, these shows do take a Christmas season break. It is interesting that they're not trying to get it all in before the Christmas season break, but hey, it gives you something to look forward to over the Christmas season break to go into January and watch the final 2 episodes of it. So, yeah. And look, I look forward to the CW crossover shows every year. They're not always great. Some of them are weaker than others, but some of them are really damn good. For instance, the one they did called Crisis on Earth X was probably my favorite one they ever did. And this one is shaping up that it's going to be Arrow's final appearance. So that January 14th Arrow will probably also be the final episode of Arrow. I'm guessing. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to it very much. All right, I'll take one more before going to take my break here, guys. Mr. Nobody writes, favorite, The Boys, Umbrella Academy, or Doom Patrol? I'm going to lean towards The Boys right now. It's really, really close. I may give a different answer tomorrow, honestly, because it's really close for me between The Boys and Doom Patrol. I like Umbrella Academy very much, but to me, Umbrella Academy is not on the same level as The Boys or Doom Patrol. But make no mistake, I really do like Umbrella Academy, and I'm really looking forward to its next season. But I'm going to go The Boys. For now, I'm going to go to The Boys. All right. I'm going to now take a 5-minute break, guys. I'm going to use the bathroom. We've been going for about an hour. I'm going to refill my drink and use the bathroom quick. We will be back here in just 5 minutes. If anybody comes along during those 5 minutes and say, hey, where's the show? Just let them know we're just on a 5-minute break. We'll be right back. So hang tough, guys. And like I said, we'll be right back. All right, and we are back. Thank you, everybody, for your indulgence as I took a little break there just to get top up my drink and all that kind of stuff. I just came flying up 2 flights of stairs. Okay, let's jump right back into it now. And we're going to pick things up here with Lone Wolf X6, who writes, I don't know why, but when I saw Carl Urban's character on The Boys, I instantly thought of Mark Shepard's Crowley. Really? He is my favorite character on The Boys. You know what somebody else mentioned to me? Somebody else said to me, and it might have been live on the show that somebody brought up, but when they saw Carl Urban's Billy Butcher, and Billy Butcher's the name of the character on The Boys, they said, it's kind of like Captain Jack Sparrow. And when I stopped and thought about it, I thought, yeah. I mean, because of the accent, there's a little bit of Crowley. By the way, Mark Shepard's Crowley is, man, I think he might still... Well, let's at least say this. Mark Shepard's Crowley on Supernatural is a top 3 all-time favorite television characters for me. I don't know why. I just love that Crowley character so much. And he's definitely top 3 for me. Anyway, Clever to Swear writes, please do your best Christopher Walken impersonation. I can't do... why would anybody ask me to do impersonations? I'm terrible at impersonations. I can't do impersonations. I've never done a Christopher Walken impersonation. What would Christopher Walken impersonation even sound like? I mean, if you can get the box, I mean, that's terrible. I can't. That's awful. Why would you even ask? Why would you subject yourself and everybody else to that? Clever to Swear. Why would you do that to everybody? All right. Let's see. Where are we at here? Sorry, I had a bit of a jump. Okay. We pick up now with Murray Reich, who writes, Regal Unlimited name sounds like an oxymoron, kind of like Los Angeles Angels at the Anaheim. Well, yeah, look, Regal, I know it's semantics, but seriously, how do they name their pass unlimited when it's completely limited? Like, Regal Unlimited should be all the movies you can see, any theater you want to see it in, any seat you want to. That's what unlimited means. Unlimited literally means without limits. And yet they have 3 different tiers of unlimited, right? It's totally limited. Oh, yeah, you can go and see this in this theater, but you got to pay a $3 surcharge. Well, then it's not unlimited, is it? It's just, I don't know how in the boardroom of Regal, when they said, any objections to us naming it unlimited? I can't imagine there's not one person in that boardroom wasn't thinking, okay, Unlimited is a really stupid name, but I don't want to look bad in front of the boss, so I don't want to be the only guy that objects here. So I'm just going to go, sure, boss, Unlimited sounds like a great idea. I mean, it's a stupid name because it's completely not what the program is, right? It's like going to a buffet and it says, Charlie's all-you-can-eat buffet. Fabulous. I'm going to go in and get the all-I-can-eat buffet. Except here's the thing. It's not all you can eat. You can have one trip to the buffet with this plate, but that's not all you can eat. Yeah, well, it's sorta. No, it's not sorta. It's not all you can eat. Unlimited is not unlimited. And so I still have a problem with that. I think it's a great plan, but I still have a problem with their naming convention of it. Anyway, Lone Wolf X6 writes, John, I just wanted to tell you, like your impressions, they make me laugh when I'm having a bad day. Well, hey, if nothing else, guys, I'm here for you to laugh at. Hey, listen, if laughing at me makes your day a little bit better, then I've fulfilled some of my purpose in life to make somebody else feel better about themselves. And believe me, I know when I do my impersonations, a lot of people are laughing at me because they're terrible. They're so bad. Anyway, thank you for sharing that, Lone Wolf. All right, Fly Swatter 0182 writes, fun fact, Lucifer is based on Gaiman's Sandman Lucifer. It's actually based on the comic book Lucifer, who may have also been influenced by the Sandman Lucifer. I think there's a connection in there somewhere, Fly Swatter. I think you're right about that. Anyway, Gary Allegra writes, loved Long Shot, forgot joke you said to look for. Oh, if you're talking about Long Shot with Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen, I really enjoyed that movie. That movie kind of came out of nowhere, and nobody went to go see it. It hardly made any money at the box office, if I remember correctly. Let me bring it up here. How much did it make? Long Shot. Okay, Long Shot ended up making a grand total of $52 million. Grand total worldwide, 52 million bucks. I'll tell you what, that movie deserved better. That was clever. It was funny. It had some heart to it. I don't see there being any chemistry between Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen, and yet somehow they made chemistry happen. I thought it was a really good movie. Very, very fun movie. A lot of laughs. I thought it was great. Kind of an eye-rolling, cheesy ending. But aside from that, I thought it was really quite a good movie. And I can't remember what joke it is either. It's been a while since I watched it. I can't remember which joke it was I said to look out for, but I'm glad you enjoyed it, Gary, because I enjoyed it too. All right, Lone Wolf X6 writes, it took me a while to realize that Detective Douche and Brother Blood from Arrow are the same actor. Yeah, and you know, seriously, the dude, I keep forgetting his name. Hold a second. Loose, because that dude's in a bunch of stuff. He's one of those actors where you see him pop up all the time. It's Dan Espinosa. Is the name of the character, and it's played by Kevin something. Hold a second. Kevin something? Hold a second. Why is this? Okay, there it is. Kevin Alejandro is the actor who plays it. And we've actually seen him a lot. He's one of these faces that just pops up all over the place. Like he'll just pop up all over the place. And you recognize him, but you didn't really know his name. He was also in Southland. I totally forgot about that. He was in Southland. He was in Parenthood for a bit. He's just done a whole ton of stuff. He was even in Heroes for a bit. He was in Weeds. He's just done a lot of stuff. This is like just one of those character actors where you see his face, and I've always liked him. And I particularly like him in Lucifer. All right, Dino, Vomai? I'm sure I mispronounced that. Forgive me, Dino. Just have read that there will probably be a trailer at D23 for Star Wars Episode 9. Hyped. Well, I don't know if that's official. I mean, look, I've been saying forever, I believe there's going to be another trailer for Star Wars Episode 9 at D23. Hold a second. Star Wars trailer D23. I'll see if there's anything in the news about it here. I'm not seeing anything in the news about it. So I don't think anything's been confirmed. But listen, I've been saying for a long time, Dino, that I believe look, it totally makes sense, right? It's been 4 months since the first teaser came out. We're going to be 4 months away. September, October, November. Yeah, we're going to be about 4 months away from the movie coming out. It's time for the second trailer. So I've believed this whole time that D23 is where they're going to launch it. I still believe that, but I don't think that's something that's been confirmed, just to be clear. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think it's been confirmed yet. All right. Single Stepped Entertainment writes, hope you're doing well. I've seen so many people say Far From Home is a Disney/Marvel film. It drives me crazy as a film fan. It's a Sony film, dang it. Well, I mean, here's the thing, though. It depends on how you look at it, because remember, Marvel did produce the movie, right? Marvel did produce the movie, but it was all done under Sony, and Sony was then the distributor of the film, right? So when you hear somebody say that Spider-Man Far From Home is a Marvel film, if to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, what they said is true from a certain point of view. In a way it is, but in a way it is a Sony film, right? So both are true and both are not. It's one of those kind of nebulous sort of things. I mean, Kevin Feige for Marvel was in charge of overseeing and producing that Spider-Man Far From Home movie within the MCU. In that way, it is a Marvel movie. But it is a character that is under the control of Sony, and Sony is the distributor of the picture, and they had final say on everything in the movie. So in that way, it's a Sony movie. I mean, so it really all depends on which angle you look at it from. From a box office perspective, it is purely a Sony film, from a box office perspective. From a production perspective, you can make an argument that it's a Marvel film. So It's yes and no. You know what I mean? It's one of those crazy little situations, single step. It's both yes and no, depending on how you're looking at it. Okay. Next one. Clever to Swear writes, I didn't expect Wayne Gretzky to beat up a 7-year-old in front of a 7-Eleven. Man, hockey players, am I right? Yeah. Well, hey, listen. Hockey players are a rough bunch, my friends. You ever see that Sean William Scott Goon movie? Hockey players, or you ever watch Slapshot with Paul Newman? Hockey players are a rough bunch, my friends. Hockey players are a rough bunch. Jonathan J. Wolfie writes, one of two. Was looking at Box Office Mojo and found out it's very hard to make a $100 million film. Wait a second. Was looking at Box Office Mojo and found out it's very hard to make a $100 million film. It is. Warner Brothers, 128, Disney, 119, 3, Universal on 3. I'm not quite sure what you're saying. Like, are you saying, wait a minute, are you saying it's hard to make a movie for $100 million? Are you saying it's hard to make a movie that makes $100 million? Are you saying it's hard to make a movie that makes $100 million domestically? Are you saying it's hard to make a movie that makes $100 million worldwide? And then are your numbers saying that's the amount of films Warner Brothers has made for $100 million? Or that made, I feel like, Jonathan, in there is some really interesting stuff. But since I don't know what your context is, I don't know how to reply to it. I apologize about that, man, because it seems like you put some thought into that, dude. Owen Tuhoy writes, ever watch Mirror Mask 2005? Cool visual effects. I don't think so. Now, let me hold on a second. There are a number of times that I don't think I've seen a Mirror movie. And then I look it up and realize, oh, I have seen that movie. Hold on a second. I misspelt it. Mirror Mask 2005. No, I didn't see this. I'm almost positive I didn't see this. So, yeah. Was this even a theatrical movie? Was this even released theatrically? I got a feeling this movie was not released theatrically. So, no, I have not seen that movie. It looks pretty interesting, though. I'm looking at the poster of it. It's pretty colorful. It looks pretty cool. But, no, I have not seen it. Let's see. Where are we at? Did I just miss somebody's question? Oh, no, that was, okay, so that was Owen. We've already done Jonathan's. Now we move on to Jack Fern, who writes, I binge watched The Boys till 5:30 on Friday. What did you think of the Gills scene? I'm not going to talk about what the Gills scene is. I'm not going to go into any details because I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea why that scene was in the show. I really don't. I mean, the point they're trying to make about that character, I feel like they had already made. And I felt like it could have been cut out. Honest with you, I just found it didn't do anything to further the story. It was just there to be there, I guess. Like every gratuitous, violent thing that's in that show, I feel like serves to further the story. And I didn't feel the Gills scene did that. And for those of you who haven't watched it, you're like, what are you talking about, Gills scene? I don't want to give anything away, but I really thought it was pointless. I really didn't feel, I felt like any point it was trying to make was already made, you know, in other ways, in other scenes. And it just felt like, that's just weird for the sake of being weird. I don't know. That's probably one of the few scenes I actually didn't like about the show, but that's just me. Tony Trombetta just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that, man. Leo Milmet writes, buy 2, rent 1, lose 2. Okay. The Shining, Stand By Me, Carrie, Misery, The Shawshank Redemption. Well, I mean, Shawshank Redemption is that's one of the greatest motion pictures ever made by humankind. Shawshank Redemption should be in every single serious conversation about the greatest movie ever made. It's not that it should be at the top of the list, but it should be a part of any real conversation about the greatest movies ever made. Shawshank Redemption's got to be in there. So that's a clear one in the buy. The other ones are very, very close because I like all of them. But for me, one of the most underrated film on that list is Misery. And it got Oscar buzz, but Misery is one of the most underrated films on that list. So I would buy Shawshank. I would buy Misery. I would rent The Shining, and as much as it pains me to say it, we would have to lose Stand By Me and Carrie, although they're both great. But that's how I kind of see that, Leo. All right. Ann Mall writes, better actor, Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt? I say Pitt. It's tough. Both of these guys have shown they can do anything. I mean, both of them have shown they can do anything. I love them both, but I think I got to lean towards Tom Cruise. He has just shown a little bit more diversity, and I believe he's got a couple of, at least one Oscar nomination under his belt. Let me just pull it up here. I take it back. He's got three times he's been nominated for Academy Awards. He's never won. He was nominated for Best Lead Actor for Born to the 4th of July, which he was amazing in. He was nominated for Best Lead Actor for Jerry Maguire, which he was amazing in. And maybe his best acting performance ever was one of the smaller roles he did. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Magnolia. This guy has just shown he can do just about anything. Brad is fantastic. Brad is absolutely fantastic. And if you didn't know that already, just go and watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And you'll see just how fantastic he is. But does he have any... He was nominated for Best Actor in Moneyball. I knew about this one. He was nominated for Best Actor in A Curious Case of Benjamin Button. And he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in 12 Monkeys. So, we've got both Tom Cruise and Brad with 2 lead actor nominations, 1 supporting actor nomination. These guys are both incredible, but I just see a little bit more diversity in Tom's repertoire. So I'm going to lean towards Tom Cruise on that. But, I mean, Brad Pitt is not the wrong answer either. Brad Pitt's amazing. Enmal also writes, as much as I love the Cap Tony stuff in Endgame, I wish they had bigger reconciliation scene. I loved it, but it felt just slightly lacking. Well... Look, I mean, when you've got a movie, though, Enmal, that's 3 hours long. That's 3 hours long. You can only put so much in the movie. I mean, what were we expecting to see? Because it had been years since their fallout, right? It had been a few years since their big fallout. And remember... there was already a little bit of reconciliation between them because at the end of Civil War, Cap writes Tony that letter that's basically, look, you know, we are where we are. I get why you feel the way you feel. I hope you get why I feel the way I feel. But listen, no matter what's going on, you call me, and he sends a phone. You ever need me, you call me and I'll be there. Right? So, and Iron Man... Tony didn't read that and go, ugh, and threw the letter away. Like it hit him, right? So I would almost make the argument that the reconciliation had already begun by the end of Civil War. The reconciliation had started already. And now it was just about 2 guys being too proud. You know, one's on the run, Tony. But I also think it speaks volumes to it that when we get into Infinity War, Tony keeps that phone on him. You know, I think that speaks a lot to what his mental, frame of mind was regarding Captain America as anything else. He kept that phone on him. He wasn't like, screw Cap. I'm still so pissed off at him. I'm still so mad at him. I'm not taking this. No. He read his letter, and as we flash forward a year or 2 later and he's standing in Doctor Strange's place, he keeps that phone on him for Captain America that he can call him because he knows he can reach out to Captain America anytime and Captain America will be there. So to me, there wasn't a lot to do. And when the 2 of them finally do come face to face again, it's after the snap. Half of the universe had just been wiped out. It seems to me like whatever little squabble they had is pretty petty at that point compared to the larger issue, right? And they have a bit of a having it out when he gets back. He's malnourished. He's not in good shape. Tony's not in good shape. They have a little bit of exchange. And I'll be honest with you, while it would have been interesting to see a longer drawn out scene for something like that, I think when you consider the context of the scene and you consider the fact that something far worse just happened, I think how they handled it was appropriate. I'll be honest with you. I think the way they handled it was appropriate. Like, you and I can get into a fight over I asked Cindy out first. No, I asked Cindy out first. Okay. And then an earthquake hits and kills thousands of people in our city. And you and I crawl out from under the rubble. Are you and I going to continue our argument about who asked Cindy out first? It kind of becomes inconsequential, right? And we move past that in the light of a much greater tragedy, something that went on. So with all that in mind, I gotta say, like, I see your point. I do. Because I think you're probably not the only one that thinks that, Amal, and I could totally see why you're seeing it that way. But I think when you look at it in context, I thought they handled it appropriately. And I didn't think for a movie that was over 3 hours long that it needed another scene. So anyway, interesting point of view to bring up, man. I appreciate that. Okay, where are we at? Marijan van Larhoven writes, over under 99%, Robert Downey Jr. will return as Tony Stark. Okay, I will say under 99%, but only by a couple of percentage points. I think it's like 90%. Like, I feel very, very sure. No insider information. Nobody from the studios have told me anything. This is just me as a fan speculating. But I feel very sure we're going to see him back. I wouldn't say 99%, but I go 9 out of 10. I'll go 90%. Yeah. So I'll take the under on your over under, but I still very much believe that Tony, it may not be next year, it may not be in 3 years, but at some point, Robert Downey Jr. will be back in an MCU movie you watch. All right. Where are we at here? 1.21 Gillowatts writes, hi, John. Great weekend going on. Excellent to hear. If I were to let you suck my tongue, would you be grateful? John Travolta in Swordfish. That's not John Travolta in Swordfish. That's Nicolas Cage in Face Off. One of the great... if I were to ask you to... No, wait. Let me rephrase. If I were to let you suck my tongue, would you be grateful? So that's from Face Off. Absolutely amazing. One of the great lines in one of the truly great dumb movies. Face Off is a dumb movie, but one of the great dumb movies. At 1.2 on Jill Ross writes, made me edit that one, LOL. Probably with suck made you edit it. But no, it's not actually Travolta. I mean, I like Travolta in Swordfish as well. But that was another Travolta movie, Face Off. Anyway, let's see, where are we at here? Anmal writes, I think when directors get too much power / control, sometimes they can get self-indulgent with their ideas, techniques. Nolan and Interstellar, Tarantino with Hateful Eight, and those self-indulgences can take away from the quality. I thought Tarantino could have made Once Upon a Time shorter and compact. I completely agree. When directors get too much autonomy and there are no checks and balances, it doesn't always lead to something bad, clearly, but it can lead to some overindulgences. I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a great example of that. And I like Once Upon, don't get me wrong, between thumbs up or thumbs down, I am a thumbs up on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Let's be clear, we're all on the same team here. I am also a thumbs up on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That being said, that movie could have easily been 45 minutes shorter. Easily could have been 45 minutes shorter. And after watching it for a second time, it really stood out. It's funny, I watched it for a second time, and the things that I don't like about it, I hated even more. But the things I liked about it, I loved even more. So it was just kind of an increased experience. But there is so much in that movie that is completely unnecessary for the film. That was just Quentin Tarantino indulging his own fetishes, really, to use hyperbole, that became a big glaring thing. Another big glaring example of what happens when directors have complete autonomous power with no checks and balances, George Lucas's prequels. Because, George answered to nobody. He was paying for the movies. It was his movies. Everybody there worked for him. And he answered to no one, and we got the prequels, right? Everybody was just standing around saying, great idea, George. Great idea, George. Oh, that's an awesome idea, George. That's the best thing ever, George. He was surrounded by yes men. And that can kind of happen. So again, there are many examples too of when a director has unfettered power and it turns out great. But there are examples of when there are absolutely no checks and balances and nobody has the power to say no to a director. of that leading to some less quality stuff, let's just say. So, yeah, I believe that as well. Let's see. Jubilera writes, did you hear about the Runaways and Cloak and Dagger doing a crossover next season? I know you're a fan of Runaways, but have you seen Cloak and Dagger? I watched Cloak and Dagger season 1 and I tapped out. I really did quite enjoy the pilot, and I even liked the first, say, 4 episodes of Cloak and Dagger, and then it just became unwatchable to me. It just became unwatchable. And I gave up on it. So I finished out the first season. And I'm like, I get to the season finale. I'm like, really? This is what this was all building up to? Really? And I finally said enough. I tapped out and I haven't watched season 2. I am interested though, because we did talk about it the other day. I am interested in the fact that they're going to do at least one episode where they're going to bring the characters from Cloak and Dagger into an episode of Runaways. I think that's interesting because I do love the Runaways. I think the Runaways is great. But I would be more excited if I hadn't already given up on Cloak and Dagger. But who knows? Maybe it'll be something that'll get me back into Cloak and Dagger. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I still think it's interesting that they're experimenting with that, though. I think that's a good idea. All right. Jared McBride writes, John, have you seen 5 Feet Apart? I know it's not one of the best movies, but I really enjoyed it. I did. It was cute. It was cute. And it's got the kid who plays, let me just make sure. It's got the kid who plays Jughead in Riverdale, right? Hold on a second. 5 Feet Apart. I believe that's the kid who played Jughead. I could be wrong about that. Oh, no, it's the right one. Okay. Cole Sprouse. Is that the kid's name? I think that's the kid's name. Anyway. Yeah, I thought it was clever. I thought it was cute. I thought it was a little bit cheesy. It was a little bit cheesy. But you know what? Overall, I thought it was nice. Anyway, Jubilera writes, what if X actor in X role? Just kidding. I know this is one of my most frustrating questions, Jubilera. All right. Sinfinity and Beyond writes, per the baby question, yuck, The Witch and Mother. Oh, yeah, The Witch. Although, I mean, that wasn't as graphic as it could have been. And Mother, yeah. Oh, man, I just did not like Mother. Mother's a great example of a movie that is brilliantly made, but impossible to watch. It's a horrible viewing experience. It's a movie made by an artist doing a piece of art, but I don't know. Here's the best thing I can say about Mother. I remember when I went to the press screening of Mother, this is how bad it was, okay? Before the movie started, one of the PR reps for Paramount, because I believe it was a Paramount film, one of the PR people from Paramount was going around to all the people who were coming to watch it and just kind of warning us in advance, saying, now, it's not a traditional movie and blah, blah. And I remember I think Harloff was with me at the time. And I turned to Harloff and I said, that's not good when before the screening starts. I had never, ever in my professional career had a publicist come up to us before a screening starts, basically warning us to lower our expectations. I've never had that happen. And I remember when they did that, I kind of turned to Harloff and it's like, that's not a good sign. He's like, what the hell was that? It's like, yeah, and then we watched the movie and we totally get why they came around and kind of gave us that warning. Now, there are some people who think Mother is like a beyond brilliant thing, and I get it because it's art and, art is subjective, but I just found it terrible. But those are a couple of good examples, Sinfinity. Those are a couple of good examples. All right. Stash05 writes, thank you for being a distraction from the chaos I've been living in. I'm from El Paso. Oh my gosh, right now in El Paso. I'm from El Paso and don't know if I have heard. But thank you for always being there for us movie fans. I mean, yeah, look, seriously, we're here to talk about movies and entertainment and blah, 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 blah. We can talk about how dumb it is that this movie did this and how stupid it is that this actor isn't playing this role. But hey, first world problems. Every once in a while we get smacked in the face with reality and, the stuff going on in El Paso right now. And, nothing any of us can say will come across as anything other than completely being trite. But I mean, as trite as it is, all I've got is, guys, our thoughts are with you. There was another incident after El Paso as well this weekend. Like, I think there were 2 incidents this weekend, not just one. You know, and it's times like this that really challenge my policy to not get into politics on this show and on my channel. It is times like this that really challenge my policy to do that. But what good would getting into politics on a movie show right now do anyway, other than to say that I think almost everybody, regardless of whatever our political persuasions are, our thoughts are all with the people in El Paso. And hey, you know what, Stash? If this show can be here just to give your mind a little bit of a break, reset, go back into the crap that you got to deal with a fresh perspective, if that's all this show can do for you today, that is awesome. So our thoughts with you, fellow film fan. And, you know, hopefully everyone you know and love and care about are safe. And again, as trite and as pointless as it is to say, our thoughts are definitely with everybody down there. Thanks for sharing that, Stash. I really appreciate that. All right. Max Sutton writes, who would you pick to play the new Wolverine? Again, I don't care. I don't care. I don't do which X actor should play X role. I would pick a good actor. That's all there is to it. As long as it's somebody who is a good, talented actor, I'm all for it. So there's a lot of names you could throw at me that I would go, yes, that person would be a good Wolverine, and yes, that person would be a good Wolverine. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. Connor Dixon writes, bought a Chromebook for when Stadia comes out. Oh gosh, I forgot to bring in the Chromebook. I was going to show you guys my Chromebook. Well, it's a little late now because I don't have it right here. I would make sure you get one of the better Chromebooks. Again, I think you can get. One of the great things about my Chromebook is, you know what? I am going to go get my Chromebook. It's going to take me about 30 seconds. So I'm going to put you guys on the wait screen for 30 seconds because I look, it's not movie related. I'm just excited to talk about. So shut up. It's my show. I can talk about the things I'm excited about. I want to talk about this thing for a second. So I'll be right back. Give me a second here, guys. We're back. All right, so this is such going off on a rabbit trail for what our show is supposed to be about, but whatever. I want to show you guys, introduce you to my favorite computer. Again, it's not the best computer I own, not by a mile, but it's my favorite computing device, and that is this little Chromebook. It is the Samsung. You can see it there. Is the Samsung Chromebook Plus. Now, a couple of cool things about this Chromebook, which I think you can get for $200 or $300. I think you can find this today if you find a good deal. I think you can find this for between $200 and $300 right now. It is light. It is thin. It is cheap. So I drag this thing with me everywhere. Because if I drop it or gets busted, whatever, $200-$300 out, right? It is a beautiful little machine. It's actually very reminiscent. It's actually very, very reminiscent of it feels a lot like a MacBook Pro. I can't turn the camera to it right now, but I have a MacBook or a MacBook Air, and visually they're very, very similar. Now, one of the cool things about this Chromebook, it completely folds over into tablet mode, so I can go into tablet mode on this, which is great. I can bring up any orientation I want. I can just scroll through all that kind of stuff. One of the other neat things, Samsung is great with their notes. They include their pen, so I can annotate, draw notes, use it to, pick certain things that I want to copy and paste. I can draw on it. I can ship it out, blah, blah, blah. I can just write notes and it recognizes my handwriting. But one of the really cool things about this particular device is, oh, by the way, and it's great for reading my comics on. I'll load up Comixology and read this. But one of the really great things is you can see down here, it's got access to the Google Play Store. So I can bring up the actual Google Play Store. Unlike a lot of other machines, I can actually load up and add Android apps right to this laptop. I can run Android apps on this laptop. And that comes in handy a lot of times, like particularly with Instagram, because you can't upload pictures to Instagram with your computer without a bunch of workarounds. But on this, I just have Instagram loaded on this, and it sees this laptop as an Android device, and I can use it as a computer to do stuff there, but I can play all the Android games, all that kind of stuff. One of the coolest things about it is that it utilizes, you don't use the internal hard drive, although I do a little bit. It all uses Google Drive. So what's great about this Chromebook is, if you were to come over to my house and visit me, all you'd have to do is open up this Chromebook and log in with your Gmail email address and password, and all of a sudden this Chromebook becomes yours. Access to all your email, access to all your bookmarks, your history, your files on Google Drive. It just becomes that so easy. So like if I ever drop and bust this, I can just buy another one, log in with my Gmail credentials, and boom, I got my computer. I'm up and running again. So there's that. There's that. I love this thing. And yeah, when Stadia comes out, a Chromebook is going to be a great option for something like that. It's going to be a fabulous option for that. And I'm quite excited about it. So anyway, that is my Samsung Chromebook Plus. It's for what it does. It's super quick. It's snappy. It's flexible. It does a lot. I love this machine. Again, nowhere near my most powerful computer, but I do love this machine. Anyway, let's get back to some other stuff. Thanks for bringing back up, Connor. Okay. Slim Trav writes, thoughts on Shadow Boxer with Helen Mirren. Is that the spy one? Hold on a second. Shadow Boxer. Oh, that's the one. No, this is not the one I was thinking of with Cuba Gooding Jr. Didn't see this one. Yep, didn't see this one. So unfortunately, no, this isn't the one I was thinking about. So no, I have not seen Shadow Boxer with Helen Mirren. Sorry about that. Okay, where are we at? We are at Lone Wolf X6, who writes, I live in Austin, Texas, and a Regal Theater is the closest thing to me and that one isn't bad. Sad to hear others are getting bad experiences at Regal. And again, it all depends. There are good Regal theaters, there are bad Regal theaters. There are good AMC theaters and some bad AMC theaters. It just really depends on the one, what's around you, right? What's around you. So I know AMC is working very hard to standardize their movie theaters. So if you go to any AMC theater, you can expect the same excellent movie-going experience you can in any other. But the fact of the matter is, not every AMC theater is up to standards yet. And I think the same was Regal. So, yeah, there are some bad Regal theaters, but there's some bad AMC theaters, some bad Cinemark theaters, some bad... so give them a little bit of a pass on that. I don't have a lot of experience with Regal theaters because I've never lived around one. But hopefully the good ones outweigh the bad ones. So apparently, Lone Wolf, you've had pretty good experiences with Regal, and that's great. All right. Connor Dixon writes, it folds into a tablet. Love how easy it is to use. Well, I mean, not all Chromebooks do that, though. Like, just be clear, not all Chromebooks do that. So you got to be careful about which Chromebook are you going for. What are the features you want in a Chromebook? I've got 2 other Chromebooks downstairs that cost like $100 each, but they're great. You just open them up. Anybody can log into it, check their email, check their social media, blah, blah. It's great for stuff like that. I mean, you can't do Photoshop work on it, but I mean, some are better than others. This one I have I love it. This Samsung Chromebook Plus, I am in love with this damn thing. All right. Lone Wolf X6 writes, my only issue is dead crowd, nor laugh or excitement, so I felt left out in the theater. Okay, so you're talking about the Regal theater you're at. Well, I mean, that's not Regal's fault, right? If an audience in a movie has no energy, that's not really Regal's fault. That's the audience. That's just a bad audience that you're with, which is unfortunate. Because I tell you, the audience you see a movie with really does influence your overall experience with a movie, right? It really does influence the overall experience, because there's nothing like being in an Endgame screening and the whole audience is buzzing and excited. There's nothing like being in a crowded theater with Hobbs and Shaw and some crazy thing happens and everybody goes nuts. I mean, you're in a comedy and everybody's laughing together. Like, when there's good energy in a movie theater, there's nothing like it. But every once in a while you get into a theater where everybody's just dead for whatever reason. But I wouldn't blame the theater for that. All right, S. Beam writes, I know there are still a lot of films to come out this year, but are there any that have you saying, I have to see this movie, It and Joker for me? Well, It and Joker, clearly. Let's just bring up the release schedule here really quick and go through what we have. I'm actually really excited about The Kitchen. We'll see if that turns out to be any good or not. I still haven't seen Blinded by the Light. Good Boys, I'm dying to see. This thing looks hilarious. And that comes out in just like a week and a half or so. So looking forward to that. Angel Has Fallen, Ready or Not, Don't Let Go, Saho. It Chapter 2 is clearly a big one. Goldfinch looks interesting. Let's see. Ad Astra with Brad Pitt. I'm really interested in that. Rambo Last Blood, I'm excited about. The Hunt, the trailer for The Hunt just came out the other day. That looks like it's going to be stupid fun. Obviously, The Joker. Let's see here. Gemini Man, the Will Smith versus young Will Smith. That's looking better and better to me all the time. Let's see. I don't like the initial Zombieland, but I'll tell you what, the trailer for Zombieland 2 got me excited, so I'm looking forward to that. Black and Blue, I'm looking forward to. Terminator Dark Fate, Doctor Sleep, Midway, Playing with Fire, Ford v Ferrari is one of the big ones that I'm really excited about. 21 Bridges with Chadwick Boseman. That looks like it's going to be amazing. At least I hope it will be at any rate. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the Mr. Rogers one with Tom Hanks. That's coming. Knives Out with Daniel Craig and Chris Evans. That looks insanely good. I mean, really, when you think about it, the new Jumanji movie, Star Wars. I mean, when you think about it, there's a lot of really highly anticipated, very exciting looking films still to come out this year. And that's just me doing a quick little scan. So I think I'd say for me, there's 6 or 7 have to see movies, but 2 of those are definitely It and Joker for me. The Sock writes, when you go to the movies, do you just get water since they probably don't have Zevia, or do you sneak some in? No, when I go to the movies, that's the one time I'll drink, Coke Zero or whatever. And normally I would prefer Diet Pepsi, but most of the theaters don't have Pepsi products. So when I go to the movies, I will have a diet soda then. What I had to get myself off of was drinking the equivalent of a 2-liter bottle of diet soda every day. Like, I had to get off that. So that's why at home, I'll drink Zevia. That's what I've got in this cup right now. And then a couple times a week that I go to the theater, I'll have myself a Coke Zero or something along those lines. But it's drastically less than what I used to drink. Michael Zanjani writes, how often do you get to rewatch the original Star Wars? 2 to 3 times a year. I mean, you got to understand, it's just one of those things where if I'm sitting around on a Sunday afternoon and Anne's out of the house and I don't have any work to do, I got an hour or 2 to kill, man, pop on Star Wars. So I'd say a couple of times a year. Most Star Wars movies I'll watch a couple times a year. For most Star Wars movies. That's just because I'm a Star Wars guy. In case you couldn't tell. Nathan Oswald writes, I finally watched X-Men Apocalypse and loved it. I don't get the hate for it. I actually enjoyed it a bit more than Days of Future Past. Well, you know what, Nathan? That is why all art is subjective. Films are subjective. I did not like X-Men Apocalypse. I didn't think it was a total bag of garbage, but overall I was quite disappointed with it. I didn't think it was a well-executed movie at all. I don't think they did a good job with their heroes. I don't think they did a good job with their villains. I don't think they tied the story together very well. There's a lot I had problems with. It certainly had its moments. My God, the Magneto in the woods when his wife and kid get killed. Oh, I have never seen a movie where I've been like, oh, I don't want to be those guys right now. Like, there's never been a scene in a movie where I have more felt the feeling of, nope, There's no amount of money you could give me to make me want to be those guys right now. The guys standing with Magneto after they accidentally kill his wife and kid. Bad time to be them. That scene was amazing. Absolutely amazing. But I do have to say, overall, I was kind of let down by the movie. But, you know, that's the beautiful thing about movies, man. We all watch movies and we all have different experiences with it. They affect us and hit us in different ways. And it hit me in a certain way, but it hit you in a very different way to the point that you really enjoyed it and it really landed home for you. And that's awesome. That's the best thing about movies. See, whenever we get into this whole discussion about all film is subjective, and it is, and if somebody doesn't understand that, they just don't get film. All film is subjective. And some people see that as a burden that we just have to deal with. I say the subjectivity of film is the best thing about it. Because just because I didn't like this particular movie doesn't mean you can't love it. And that's the great thing about movies. And that's why I love them so much. Anyway, Alex Von Gollum writes, "Hey, Gio, one of my favorite scenes in Return of the King, when Gandalf goes to rescue the soldiers being attacked by the king of Angmar. It's the representation of the spark of hope in the midst of despair." Listen, one of the things about Return of the King, and really, if you go through all of the Lord of the Rings films, the initial three, not including the Hobbit movies, I mean the three Lord of the Rings films, Fellowship, Towers, Return of the King, that's a recurring theme, Alex, throughout that series. When all seems darkest, a spark of light of hope emerges, right? And a couple of times through the movies, Gandalf kind of represents that, but at other times, different ways. Like, for instance, if we're going to stick with Return of the King, in the scene where, you know, the city is under siege, and all of a sudden Theoden and the Riders of Rohan come over the mountainside and all the orcs are looking up, like, it's when all seemed lost. How many times in the Lord of the Rings film says there's a moment when all seems lost and then a glimmer of hope comes? And I think that's an overriding theme of the movie, summed up and represented extremely well in that scene that you're talking about. It's just one of the reasons why there are some of the greatest films ever made in cinematic history. And I think that The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, while not the greatest film of all time, is the greatest achievement of all time in film. I really do. I believe that to this day, and that scene that you're pointing out is just one of the reasons. But I think you've caught on to a larger theme that really, when you look at it, runs throughout all of those films, and I adore it. Excellent example, Alex. I love that. All right. Dino Vomi writes, "Greetings from Switzerland." Well, thank you for writing from Switzerland. I always get a big kick out of seeing, every once in a while, I'll go over to Google Analytics and I'll look at where all the traffic comes from. And I'm always amazed. I think the record one, I could be way off by this, but I think the record was one episode we had like people from 21 different countries watching. Which is just like, wait a minute, what? It's just one of the craziest things in the world. So thank you for sharing that, Dino, and thanks for being here, man. All right, Nathan Oswald writes, "Who writes the film consensus for Rotten Tomatoes?" They probably an intern. Probably an intern. Like, the film consensus is just basically somebody goes through a bunch of the reviews and say, okay, so basically what I'm seeing, it's just one person writing it. Basically what I'm getting from reading all these different reviews is generally the impression is this, if you average it all out. But it's probably some intern, to be honest with you. Probably just some intern. Let's see. ZOMG Ruler writes, "I liked Pa Kent's sacrifice. Why people crap on it?" Oh, God. No, I love that scene. There are people who, again, all film subjective, talking about Man of Steel. That scene where, yeah, Clark could have easily saved his dad, Kevin Costner, could have saved his dad in that scene. But his dad so believed that his son was not yet ready to be outed to the world. He loved his son so much and believed so much that his son wasn't ready to shoulder that burden. He was willing to die to give his kid that much more time to become ready for when he needs to come out on the world stage and let the world know who and what he really was. And that, to me, is one of the scenes that makes that movie so brilliant. The extent to which he loved his son and believed how important it was for not only his son, but probably for the world, for his son to not come out yet and not tip his hand and reveal what he is. It was so important to him, he was willing to die for that. And as a result of some, things that have happened, Clark trusted his father. He trusted, as much as it pained him, as much as it destroyed him inside, he trusted his father to not go and save him. I just think it's profoundly brilliant. Personally, but again, it's the subjectivity of film. Not everybody's going to agree with this, UMG. All right, next up. Clever to Swear writes, John, I don't want to alarm you, but those butter popcorn sold in every cinema around the world is made out of people. It's people. It's Soylent Green. It's Soylent Green. It's people. It's made out of people. I can just hear Charlton Heston screaming that out in the back of my mind now as you're reading that, as you're writing that, Clever. Nathan Oswald writes, which role was better comeback? Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man or Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder? By the way, both came out in 2008. That's a great question. Seriously, you could make an entire video just about that. You could do like a 15, 20-minute discussion video just on that. Because both of those movies marked the comebacks of those characters. Now, a lot of people today forget that after the lunacy of his whole Oprah jumping up and down on the couch thing, people were kind of freaked out by Tom Cruise's Scientology stuff, and it was just too many headlines, and they had that really weird appearance on Oprah with these jumping up and down on the couch, and everybody soured on Tom Cruise. People forget about that. There was a period of time there where everybody soured on Tom Cruise. People also forget, even though it was only 11 years ago, that everybody had given up on Robert Downey Jr. because he had screwed his own career over multiple times. And it's his own fault. It was his own fault. But everybody forgets that. Like, we just think of Robert Downey Jr., Tom Cruise, big movie stars. Never have they had any hiccups. There was a period of time for both of these guys when their careers were absolutely in question. And then came Iron Man and Tropic Thunder. And both of those films completely saved the careers of both of those guys for different reasons. Tom Cruise took on a role that he had never kind of done before, Les Grossman, like completely going fearless and making a fool out of himself, but everybody loved it. I loved it. I want a standalone Les Grossman movie. I'm on record about that. I will say this. I think the better comeback was Tom Cruise. The reason I say that is because Robert Downey Jr. was already starting to piece things back together with some smaller films like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and things like that. He was already starting to piece together a little bit. Tom Cruise, I don't know if he ever would have come back the way he came back were it not for that movie. And so I think they're both great examples. I'm going to lean towards Tom Cruise on that though. Although I like, again, Nathan, they're both excellent examples. Okay. Murray Reich writes, Tom Brady has signed for a 2-year extension. AFC East, crap. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Remember, just because he signed an extension doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play 2 more years. All right? Remember how contracts in the NFL work. The second thing is, this team has taken a couple of hits. They are now without Gronk. That's huge. I'm not convinced they're going to win the AFC East this year. They're still my favorite team, but I'm not convinced they're going to win the AFC East this year. I certainly don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. And that's fine. That's fine. They've won all the other Super Bowls. Time to let somebody else have a little bit of it. But I think the dynasty is now done. Finally. I mean, this is the greatest dynasty in the history of football, is the Patriots. But I think the run is over. I think we're going to still see a couple of good years from Tom, but I think the run is over. I hope I'm wrong. We'll find out soon enough as the NFL starts back up again. All right. Madhu Vatten writes, John, you said it would take you 30 seconds to get your PC, but it took longer than that. What kind of customer service is it? Did it take me longer than 30 seconds? Damn, I got to tell you, I love this. I love this machine, man. Tell you what, I absolutely adore this thing. And again, remember, because this is so cheap, and there are cheaper Chromebooks, but the great thing about these cheap little Chromebooks, as opposed to like a $1,200 laptop or a $1,500 laptop, is that if I'm walking around with this and it falls and it breaks into 1,000 pieces, that sucks. I'm out a couple of $100, but it's not the end of the world. I just grab another Chromebook, log in with my Gmail account, and boom, it's as if it's my same Chromebook again. All my files are there, all my bookmarks are there, all my history is there, all my documents are there. It's just so great. And then this is a really good piece of hardware. It's a really good little piece of hardware. And again, by no means is it the best machine I've got, but it's my favorite. It is my favorite. Okay, Suthius writes, amusement park or water park? Which do you prefer? Woo. Huh. Amusement park. There's just more to do. So I'm going to lean. See, in Hamilton, Ontario, we had a great water park down there in Hamilton. Fabulous water park. I'm going to lean towards amusement park, though, just because there's more variety of things to do. All right, let's see here. We're down to our last few questions today, guys. Andrea Valentova writes, finally, I'm able to send super chats. Good late evening from Czech Republic, John, and thank you for everything you do. Oh, thank you so much, Andrea. I really appreciate that. Again, I get a big kick when we're finding out we have our film fan community, folks. All of our film fan community, we are all over the world. We are all over the world. Whether it's somebody writing from India or from Czech Republic, it's great to have. So thank you, Andrea, for being a part of the film fan community all the way from the Czech Republic. And thanks for supporting the channel at the same time. So it's good to have you here. All right, last two questions of the day. And we're coming in right about 2 hours today, which is perfect. Ben Rayner writes, don't forget Robert Downey Jr. was also in Tropic Thunder. This is true. This is true. Robert, who was great. What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people? It's just Robert Downey Jr. Tropic Thunder was first of all, everybody in that movie is great. Matthew McConaughey was great. A lot of people forget about that. Jack Black was great. Ben Stiller was great. I mean, it's a wonderful, fun movie. I just dig that movie so damn much. All right, final question of the day. And the final question today comes to us from Lone Wolf X6, who writes, my friend, he says I'm too easy to please because I like the Arrowverse, claims it's bad writing and laziness to make each season 22 episode arc. Well, I mean, that's your friend's opinion. But your friend is also being an idiot saying, like, I just hate it when people make up excuses for why somebody else doesn't agree with what they think. Right? Oh, you like something I don't? Well, then that just means you're easy to please. No, it just means I watched it and I enjoyed it. It doesn't mean I'm easy to please. Maybe you're just a piece of shit who doesn't appreciate good art. Oh, you didn't like me saying that? Well, maybe you shouldn't have said what you said. How about we just both agree that it's art, you watch it and it doesn't work for you, and here's the reasons why it doesn't work for you, and you just accept that I watched it and it did work for me. How about that? You know, I just hate it when people do that. I hate the practice of making up excuses for why other people don't agree with your assessment. You know, I watched it and I liked it. Great. If you didn't, well, all right. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, you just didn't get it. You know, I just hate people who make excuses for that. All right. And now a bunch of people are throwing in tons of, and by the way, 22 episode arcs are great. If you do them properly, they're great. Anyway, let me just fly through these that got through it. Sinfinity and Beyond writes, gotta love the water park at Wonderland. I've heard that was, I've never been to the water park at Wonderland, to be honest with you. It's been a lot of years since I've been there, but that's supposed to be really great. Michael Zanjani writes, I re-saw the Schnepp Aunt May clip. So funny. There are so many great clips with Schnepp when we were doing that show together. And that one was a really, it's one of the great highlights of all of YouTube, not just of movie stuff, of all of YouTube. That clip is one of the great things of all time. Dangerously writes, Kevin Smith talking Snyder Cut again. Please stop. I'm so over that. I'm so over that. Which, by the way, at some point, Warner Brothers may go, hey, yeah, we'll put in 30 million extra bucks, finish it up, and put out a cut. I mean, they can do that. They can do that. Maybe they will, but I'm doubting they will. Benny95 writes, favorite scene of Man of Steel? Mine is the flight scene. Well, I mean, that's great. When he first takes off and flies for the first time. There's many. The stuff with Pa Kent is definitely one of them. The fights are incredible and huge. Can't we just keep pretending that I'm your son? That scene is definitely, I mean, there's too many to count, Benny. I don't know if I've got one particular favorite, but that's definitely a great one. And then Rocky, that's the final question today from Greetings from Amsterdam, John. Thank you so much, Rocky. Again, it's always great to hear from people who are writing from around the world, and I appreciate that, man. And guys, we're just over, almost getting close to 2 hours and 5 minutes. That will do it for today's installment of Open Mic and our final episode for this weekend. Don't forget, guys, the John Campea Show returns tomorrow with me, Robert Meyer Burnett, Chris Carr. I'm already working on some of the stories that we're going to be talking about tomorrow. Make sure you guys plan to come and join us for that. That's at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We hope to see you guys there. Guys, thank you to all of you. Number one, for being here. Number two, for writing in all the questions that you did, because number one, you gave us fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported the channel while you were doing that, and I thank you very much for that. From the bottom of my heart, you guys are the reasons we're able to keep these shows going and on the air, so thank you for that. All right, guys, have a great final part of your Sunday. Wrap up this week and get ready to kick all sorts of ass for the week to come. My name is John Campea, and until next time, guys, bye-bye.